Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Capture High Growth, High Value Multicultural Digital Audiences webinar. My name is Monique, and I will be your host for the next hour. Before jumping in, let me take a moment to review a few housekeeping items with you all. Today's presentation is being recorded, and we will email out a link within 24 to 48 hours after the webinar concludes. You will also receive a link to download the deck itself, should you wish to refer back to the content at your convenience. If I can now direct your attention to the control panel on your screen, you'll see a few options to help you participate and enjoy the content of this webinar. This panel lets you switch your audio options at any point over the next hour and ask questions or leave comments about our presentation, since you would have noticed that you were automatically muted when you came in on the line today. We do welcome and encourage your feedback, so please don't be shy about typing in that questions box. We will do our best to answer as many questions live as we can, but if we are unable to get to your question, or if it's very specific to your specific business needs, we'll have our team follow up with you offline. You can also find a handout available for downloading in your panel. Think of this as our thank you for joining us today. If you enjoy what you hear over the next hour and want to meet our presenters in person, David Mesas, who I'll formally introduce in a minute, will be attending Portada in Miami next Wednesday and Thursday. This event brings together innovators from all over to deep dive into some of marketing's most imminent issues. Plus, if you go to Portada's website and enter the promo code Geoscape at checkout, you'll receive 20% off your registration, and you really can't beat a deal like that. So now to introduce our speakers, like I said, David Mesas is a VP of Business Development with Geoscape. He joined the company in 2005 to consult clients on the opportunities in targeting high-growth consumer segments and currently works with clients across various industries, including telecommunications, retail, and QSR. On a more personal note, David was born in Miami and is one of 3 children of Argentinian parents, and in his free time is passionate about long-distance running. Our second speaker is Ron Cohen, VP of Product Management and Analytics. He joined Geoscape in 2003 to start up their international analytical consulting practice and manages the development of European versions of Geoscape technology platforms. He has over 25 years of experience working with market research, segmentation, and geographic information systems, and is currently responsible for research, analytics, and international products. A fun fact about Ron is that he worked for Claritas for 14 years designing and developing marketing information products and services for a wide variety of industries like CPG, financial services, media, and automotive. All right, guys, today's presentation is going to be a good one, and I want to make sure Ron and David have plenty of time to get through everything. So, David, I'll kick it over to you to officially start us off, and I'll be back to answer some of your questions live throughout.
Thank you so much. So just to set the agenda for today, we're going to give a brief overview and introduction to those folks on the line that are not familiar with Geoscape and Claritas, the business intelligence that we provide to find new high-growth consumer segments. We'll also get into engaging audiences wherever they are, online, offline, and helping you define and connect with diverse and sometimes hard-to-reach audiences. We'll introduce AUDIENTIVITY, digital targeting solution that we provide here, what it is and how it works. And I'll use a case study format to illustrate this technology in action, showing how companies can engage and acquire high-growth audience segments. We'll leave some time at the end to review the Q&A and open up the line for discussion. And again, I want to thank everyone for investing the time to hear us today. Geoscape, we're a company that helps our clients tap into and understand high-growth consumer and business segments. In one sentence, we help you find your best customers by providing unique data, unique segmentation data, technology that enables our clients to make this data actionable and extract the insights they need to go to market. We have full service research, online, offline research, quantitative and qualitative, and the ability to be that analytics arm for your team to analyze data and help you create custom projects. And today we'll be looking at our digital audience targeting solution. We have a fairly flexible business model. We have clients that engage us more of a self-service, where we empower them with the data, the technology they need to go to market and understand the opportunity. And then there's other clients that have a mixture of our services and some that are more full service and require more of our team to be engaged in projects and consulting projects. As part of Claritas now, we've joined a company that's is very similar in solutions and really cares about helping address four main questions, addressing the who, the what, the where, and the how, by providing smarter targeting. What are their demographics of their best customers? What are their lifestyles, their attitudes? What do they watch? What are they doing online? We really help you paint a better picture so you can provide smarter targeting, smarter planning. Where do they live? Where do they shop? Which channels do they prefer? And ultimately, how do I find more like them? In terms of smarter buying, where do they buy, invest budgets? Where do I reach more of them across platforms? Which segments and audiences should you buy in digital and mobile? And ultimately, we're giving our clients a 360-degree view of the consumer. We paint the complete picture of your key groups by not just leveraging one data point or two data points. We're looking at the entire view of the customer, their technology usage, media usage, product consumption, automotive shopping behaviors, financial behaviors, and entertainment, and especially culture, and how that weaves into their attitudes, their restaurant shopping, their media usage, and blending that with the demographics that most of us are used to with the age and the presence of children. So we pride ourselves on giving our clients a complete picture of their best customers. Okay, now audientivity. I guess here we can pause for a second, and I believe you'll see a poll question pop up on your screen, and feel free to address that.
All right, so our poll question, it's just a quick check to see, is your business currently using digital targeting for serving ads? So obviously your choices are either yes, no, or if you don't know, you can choose that too. And we'll give you guys a few seconds to answer the question, and we'll close the poll and just get a sense for if you are using them or not. All right, I'm going to close the poll and let's see here. So it looks like about 67% are using digital targeting for serving ads, 20% are not, and about 14% aren't sure if they are or not.
Okay, that's a good number. So the big question is, all right, why did I sign up to this webinar? What's in it for me? And most folks are always tuned into this radio station, WIIFM, which is really what's in it for me. And we hope to show you new technology and really how to connect with highly targeted offline audiences online, leveraging the rich offline data that most of us are used to leveraging in direct mailing, for example, and taking that online and finding precise targets. And then leveraging geofencing technology to reach near real-time buyers. We're not at the point where you can reach them at the real time, but we're very close to it. And we'll show you how you can leverage geofencing data to get customers that are in specific stores or neighborhoods that you'd like to capture mobile device data. And then at the end of the day, what's really important for most people on the call, I would imagine, is sales, and how do we attribute our campaigns to sales that we've made offline. And most analytics platforms out there and attribution models are only providing a partial solution. They're just looking at digital conversions and revenue, not including the online impact oftentimes to what's happening to offline sales, leads, and in-store visits. There's a disconnect. Unless you're using some type of promotional code, you lose that connection when someone's making a 1-800 call, or if they decide to walk into a store to make the purchase. If they're not clicking on that landing page and you're tracking that click, you oftentimes lose that connection with the sale. And so what I'm going to show you today will link those data points and allow you to attribute your digital efforts to a sale wherever that sale may come through. Audience connectivity is really what Audientivity is. It helps you connect with custom audiences through traditional and digital channels. And that includes direct mail, web, digital, mobile use, hotel or even venues, email, and then telemarketing, which many companies still do. And with this solution, you'll be able to reach folks across those different channels. One of our primary databases for creating audiences is Homebase. Homebase has the names and addresses of most Americans, 220 million adults, with additional information like ethnicity, the ability to segment Hispanic, African American, Asian, Anglo households, overlay Prism segmentation that's provided by our company that gives you visibility into lifestyles, media usage, demographics, other behaviors offline, language usage, socioeconomic status, age and family composition, expenditures across various products. And for the example today, the vehicle make, model, and geo-targeting. Now, we also, as Geoscape, we bring more of the cultural sauce to the table, and Hispanicity and Asianicity segmentation gives you a more complete picture of Hispanics and Asians. And I'll talk about the Hispanicity today. And the Hispanicity allows you to segment Hispanic consumers across 5 segments. Acculturation segments, HA1 to HA5, HA1 being your most acculturated, more English speaking, the consumer that's more like your total market, general market consumer, and is behaving a lot like them in terms of media and product purchasing, and obviously English language usage. As you get into the 2s, you have your second generation, and they tend to be more bilingual, preferring English. As you get into the 3s, bicultural and bicultural, more likely to be jumping between 2 languages almost seamlessly. And as you get into the 4s and 5s, more likely to be foreign-born, have a strong connection to their culture, and oftentimes look for brands that they remember from their home country. And so we have a lot of clients that leverage those insights here in the U.S. To drive sales, to drive these folks into the stores. And you'll see some tendencies at the bottom. Those tendencies can be elaborated on, and we can provide more detail tied to your industry. So now you're not just looking, is this a Latino or not? You can say, hey, should we reach them with this kind of message in culture, in language, to drive them to the store? And they happen to be the fastest growing consumer segment in the U.S., and driving over 60% of the growth over the last 7 years since the last census. So companies are hungry to communicate with these individuals, and this gives you another layer of segmentation. Now, how does Audientivity works? We had the marketing team create the best images to try to communicate this from a visual perspective, and you essentially start off with a list, an address list. You don't need the name, you just need an address. And with the address, we can match using geodata to the home's IP address. And so with the IP address, we can now do the match with the latitude, longitude, and the home address, latitude, longitude. We can match and identify the IP address of that particular household. The IP address is really the internet connection address for that household. Once we've identified that IP address, all the address information is stripped, and you're left with households, IP address of households that you'd like to target. You can further refine that target and ultimately serve ads to those folks using their IP as your communication method. Now, with the IP address, you can also identify mobile device IDs, and you can use those device IDs to serve ads just to the devices that belong to that household. Now, to give you a little bit more of a technical view, with the matching of the IP, once that IP is stripped, we remain with a privacy shield, a unique ID that identifies that IP address, and all the other PII, personally identifiable information, is stripped away. So you're just using the IP. The IPs are loaded to the ad networks with the creatives, and ads are served to just those IPs. So similar to what folks on the line are doing with cookie-based targeting, where you're serving ads wherever a cookie might pop up or be detected. Here, we're serving ads only when our audience of, let's call it 10,000 households, when their IPs are detected on the ad network, whether they're on their mobile device or browsing on their laptop or tablet, at home or away from home. And so this gives you the ability to create your targets beforehand. Rather than saying, I want my ad to be shown to anyone that was shopping on a Ford website the last 2 weeks and has a cookie stored, now you're saying, I just want to reach folks that meet this target, and I don't want my ad to be shown to anyone outside of this pool of 10,000 pre-targeted individuals. And that is your audience. And then you can set the frequency and the length of the campaign and control the creative that each segment receives. Now, if you have the address, you can identify the IP address. If you have the IP address and the address, you can also identify the device IDs, which allow you to also serve based on device IDs rather than just IP addresses. And since we're bypassing cookies, our bidding process is quicker. We're more likely to win the bid and serve your ad to your targeted audience. And you eliminate waste because you're only serving the ads whenever your prospective customers are online, and in whatever websites they may be going to. If today they're on ESPN, next week they're on Fox or CNN or whatever website they're going to that's within the ad network, the ads would sort of serve wherever their IP is detected and where the bid is won. So the same bidding technology that you're used to with cookies is being deployed here. However, the key difference is you have the ability to do a match back analysis. And not just on those people that clicked, landed on the landing page and purchased that day, but also the people that didn't click, saw the ad, said, hey, let me wait to get home and go on the website and search for that phone. They get home, they search the website. We can detect that they came back, their IP address came back to the website and started browsing around. Or if they decided to just call the 1-800 number to speak to a human and make the purchase, that sales data can be bucketed and then matched back to the original 10,000 people we were targeting. Now, let's say they walked into the store because they wanted to talk to a human but also see the human. Then if they walked into the retail store and purchased, that data can also be bucketed and matched back to the original 10,000. So long as your sales process captures customer information. If you're capturing an address or a name and a zip code, a name and an address, that allows you to do the match back more efficiently. If you're not capturing the name and address, you have to rely on another method, but you may lose the offline attribution. And we can expand on that on a case by case for anyone that has any additional questions or has wants more clarity on how it could apply to their business. All right. Now, I'm going to give you an example today of an automotive dealership, a local dealership here in Miami. It's Bremen BMW, excuse me. And this is a screenshot of their website. They are looking to engage Latino millennials, which are a big percentage of the millennials in this market are Latino. They're an upscale automotive dealer. They have several dealerships in South Florida with different brands, as you see there on the bottom right. They're looking to run a pilot test prior to a full-scale launch. As many of us do, we want to first test an A/B, test multiple segments, test audientivity against what you're doing digitally now. And this is not meant to fully replace everything you're doing. You want to keep doing social, you want to keep doing search, you want to keep doing cookie-based targeting. This adds to your arsenal, and you'll see perhaps you'll leverage more of this than the others because of the sales attribution at the end of the day. They want to make this may become a model for other dealerships, regional and nationwide. And what they're looking for is the near real-time prospects. They've been reaching the intenders. They have tons of websites capturing leads, people looking on their site. They even have someone that pops up on their site and starts chatting with you within 5 seconds. They know who's an intender. But what's greater than an intender is a near real-time prospect. Specifically, they're looking for those that are in the market to buy or lease. And the industry term for intenders are those, or the industry refers to those as intenders. You know, those that are in the market, they've been browsing around. We will find them those near real-time buyers, and they want to secure loyal customers by anticipating needs. And with this audientivity, they're seeking a strategic advantage on customer acquisition beyond what they traditionally do, which they will continue to do in combination. They want to build, the solution is really to build an auto buyer and leaser intenders file to, in addition to using compiled lists, we are going to harvest the mobile device IDs of those folks browsing on their dealership lot and those on competitive dealership lots. And instead of, what we're trying to do is take last weekend's shoppers, so we'll take the last 7 days, last 14 days of shoppers and create this week's buyers. We're going to examine the footprint, we'll enrich the audience data and qualify these shoppers. You can add additional cultural, lifestyle, socioeconomic fields to better refine the list. And ultimately, we will develop a brand messaging along with a compelling offer. And this is done with the agencies and their creative departments. We'll leverage historical data, business knowledge. We recommend the client leverage strategic focus groups to really get in the mindset of these Latino millennial buyers. And the idea is to serve a multi-channel campaign. It's not just about digital. It's really that 3 or 4 prong approach. And it starts off with a third party sending, once the device IDs are detected and scrubbed and deduped, there's a card, an oversized promotional card that's sent. An offer to test drive and ultimately a financing offer to drive them back into the lot. We know that they're going to make a decision pretty soon since they've already been visiting lots, dealerships. The follow-up, once they've received the mail piece, you time it so that within a few days, they begin to see offers on their browser, within their browser at home. With a video campaign, a 30-second video campaign, you can also serve static banner ads. And so you have the 2-prong approach. Now they've already been on your lot or a competitive lot. Now they saw the message in the mail, and then now they're seeing it as they start to browse, and ultimately they'll start to see it in their mobile device as they browse on their mobile device, and in some games and applications that serve ads, your ad could also be displayed. So now you have the 3-pronged approach to reach these individuals, leveraging direct mail, online, and mobile. And then at the end, the sales match back and analytics to ensure the results lived up to the expectations. And so there's 3 targets. The intenders target 1 is the folks that visited the Brayman BMW dealer, and they'll receive Creative A, which is this offer. And the target 2, intenders target 2 is really those that visited competitive dealers that were geo-fenced. And they'll receive a Creative B. And those folks will be tracked, the click-throughs will be tracked and reported accordingly. And lastly, we're introducing a 3rd target, which are likely buyers, intenders, not necessarily near real-time, but folks that we can create an audience using Homebase, the database I mentioned earlier, and they will fall under, or they will receive Creative C. And the likely buyers from Homebase is a Latino millennials audience. This creative you just saw, and it's going to be 18 to 35. You can work with the millennial age as you please. They're getting older, so the age keeps moving beyond 35. Their ethnicity in this case is Hispanic. We want them to be making over 70K. We understand that this brand may have a higher income for the general market, but Hispanics tend to spend above their income level in order to splurge with these types of vehicles, especially in a market like Miami. Speaking from experience. College education, a plus. So college education or higher, and then Hispanicity segment HA 2 to 4. So that's really your prime bicultural, bilingual, you know, the 200 percentile group, the one that is 100% Latino and 100% American, and you can't really make them choose. These folks will receive your message in either language, in culture, and it will resonate with them if the offer is compelling. Now, right now, I'll take a step back and let Ron go and explain a little bit and demystify a little bit the geofencing technology and how it works.
Okay, thanks, David. As you can see in the map here, what we're able to do here is we can create very precise polygons around the lots of auto dealers or other retailers, depending on what you're targeting and who you're targeting. This allows us to detect and harvest the device IDs of mobile devices that enter the perimeter of the lot, the dealership lot, but allows us to exclude passersby, people who are driving by, pedestrians who are walking by on the sidewalk. You're only going to capture the device IDs of people who enter and remain for more than a minute or two on the premises. The BMW dealer is shown in the upper right, and there's two competitive dealers. Well, one's kind of a sister company, and the other is a competitive dealer neighboring. So anyone who's out shopping for a car in this neighborhood during the days when the geofence is in place is going to be detected on the lot, and their device ID is going to be harvested, and we will create an audience or three separate audiences based on the targeting campaign that Dave has described out of these people. Now, it can consist only of shoppers that entered during a certain day or during last week or during the last month. We can track the time they spent, when they were there, how long they spent, and you can filter appropriately depending on how specific you want to be with your targets. And at the end, that's really all we need to include them in a digital campaign to start serving ads to them online, the device IDs. You can reverse the process David described for AUDIENTIVITY at home to match back the device ID to the IP address and the IP address to the home address if you want to further follow up with direct marketing campaigns. And yes, this is what we should have shown. While they're on the lot, their device IDs will be captured. There you go. There's a good example.
All right. Thank you, Ron. And so this would address the first two targets. We can further refine those targets or start messaging them right away. Timing is of the essence. Separately, we would create a home-based target. So we take the dealership address and create what typically retailers use is a radius or a drive time trade area to define. You have some retailers that use polygons that they've created free form or defined by existing geos. We're using a 7 mile for the dealership. You can adjust that based on the urbanicity and density of an area. We found that 7 miles is the ideal for this type of business in this market. And so what we're doing here is first creating that audience offline, similar to what you're used to in the direct mail world. And here I've upped the age a little bit, 21 to 35. I wanted them to have a somewhat of an education and ultimately the income to align. And if you look there at the bottom left, we have some of the income selected. You have the ability to select by net worth, by occupation. The more filters you add, the more targeted your list. Also, the more refined your audience, the smaller the number of the audience. So depending on how much reach you'd like, you have to keep that in mind as you're building your audience. This database is updated every 45 to 60 days. Takes into account national change of address, people move in and out of a dealership's territory. They would be added and reflected in the follow-up, quarterly campaign, for example. And within the platform, you can select your audience. And as you see in the cultural background, we have every cultural background, but you can select Hispanic or do a drop down and select specific countries if it's country specific. And then you have the ability to isolate by Hispanicity, the three segments in the middle there, and you have the option of using language to hone in on the language, the exact language usage in that household. There are additional fields for Asian consumers at the very bottom there.
You can also factor prism segmentation or cycle or connections or any other segmentation system offered by Claritas or Geoscape for selecting even further refined targets.
Yes. And this is a snapshot of the summary at the end of what what we've selected. And then you hit count, and the system will count within a matter of minutes the audience that we can ultimately reach offline. And typically, if you have any database with names and addresses with a clean set of addresses, you'll typically see anywhere between 50 and 60% match rate on the file. So 50 to 60% of the records or addresses you have offline can be matched with an IP address online. We can also match email addresses for those folks wanting to combine email to those campaigns. And we identified, for this particular target, we identified about 2,386 millennial Latino individuals making over 70K, and with the college graduate or higher, and are in the sweet spot of HA2 to HA4.
And are in the dealer's trade area.
And very important point, Ron, within the 7-mile radius. And we can tighten that up, we can button up the trade area, but we found, proximity to the dealership also plays a strong role in driving those folks for a test drive. This is just a snapshot of what the dealership looks like on the map in our platform, and you see by census tract, in the red areas, there's anywhere between 1,500 and 4,000, for those that can't read that number. And by the way, we're going to give a copy of the presentation to those that have attended. So just looking at Hispanic millennials is not enough. Not all Hispanic millennials are created equal. From a dealership lead perspective, you really want to make sure you're getting those that have a career and have the income to purchase a BMW. Really, let's face it, what we're trying to get them to act on. So if you just look at this map, Miami looks like, hey, it's great. There's millennials everywhere, and let's go after all these census tracts or neighborhoods. But when you look a little closer, even if you look at it this way, just looking at all Hispanics, it lights up. And you'll see a lot of areas that have thousands of Hispanics overall or Hispanic millennials. But when we plot our 2,386 prospective intenders, we see the distribution. And those numbers are the number of households in that area. We've just created circles to identify them. And if you look a little closer, you may see some standalone dots on the map. Those are just single sites. But there's many key neighborhoods that have this ideal target. And for all of these, we have a name and an address that we can extract or ultimately match to their IP, which is what's being done here, to serve all these folks an ad. And let me rephrase that, to serve approximately half of these folks the ad, the ones that have matched. All right, and you see that distribution. And for those folks that are familiar with Miami, the downtown area, the Coconut Grove and the Coral Gables area, 219, Miami Springs, all semi, or affluent areas. And then you see the folks that everyone, the areas most folks are familiar with, the beach. You'll see some leads scattered around there in North Miami Beach. All right, so it aligns with what we see here, living here and knowing the communities. It aligns with how the leads are distributed. If you take a closer look, you can start to see the neighborhoods, and you start to see those single dots I mentioned.
Those are target.
And those are all one single target that you've been able to pinpoint and either serve that gentleman or woman an ad, first a postcard kind of ad, and then ultimately strategically serve them ads on their devices and really call forth a strong offer and bring them to the store to sign up or test drive. The ads will be served on a number of websites, and actually this is the score last night from the Minnesota-Denver game for those fans out there. But you see the ad here on the right. You know, it's going to serve just like all the other ads you're used to, just like the other cookie-based ads you're used to, and similar to that ad at the very top, the Mini Cooper ad, right, which is also one of their brands. So it's going to use the same framework. It's just now we guarantee that the ad is only being seen by one of these households we just shown on the map. That's the key, and that's great in and of itself. But ultimately, we can identify which one of those households actually either signed up for the test drive or ultimately purchased, which is what we care about.
Also, who clicked through?
Who clicked through, click-throughs, who came back to the website and didn't necessarily click through the ad. All those metrics will be measured and provided to you. And speaking of metrics, seems like I was prepared, huh? So the detailed reporting by audience segment and creative, because you're gonna have multiple creatives. We already have 3 segments, but within those 3 segments, we can have another 3 breakouts. You know, for intenders 1, intenders 2, and then the home-based target, we can have 3 separate creatives within each segment to test A, B, C. We can have different data targets altogether, boomers versus millennials. Let's see which one's purchasing more BMWs. All of that can be tracked by segment down to the segment. The only thing we don't provide is household level reporting. We can't tell you John Smith saw the ad X number of times. We would just aggregate everything for you by segment and by creative, and then you can see the flow daily, weekly, and through the lifetime of the campaign. All right. And, you know, we typically control the reporting, but ultimately for clients that are truly engaged and have bought into doing full campaigns with us, we can leverage giving you access to the dashboard so that you can run these campaigns on your own. You're not restricted to just using our home-based data. If you have data that you're grabbing from another vendor or your own customers you'd like to reach online, or take your own customers and enrich them. You know, you have your name, you have your addresses, you might know their age, you might know, obviously, their shopping behavior, but perhaps you're missing their culture. Perhaps you're missing their level of acculturation, or you want a better way to segment and communicate one-to-one with your customers. Perhaps you need a prism to really help you create these personas and drive your messaging. And speak one single language across all your different media. And the good thing about Prism, while I'm on the subject, is that it's layered into other data sets where you can see behavior through databases like Scarborough and MRI, where you can see this behavior and media usage and use that to drive how you reach these folks. The data is there, this technology is there, and we have companies leveraging this and growing their sales and matching back. So what are the key takeaways? Out of all of that, I don't expect you to remember all of it, but if you remember just 3 things today, one is you have the ability to reach near real-time prospects in the market to buy today. Or, you know, if this is already there, whether you have a retail business or you want to geo-fence areas that you know your shoppers tend to hang out at, you know, or like areas like down here in Miami, Wynwood or South Beach, you can geofence different areas to try to capture folks that you can leverage and reach. Connect with offline audiences online. I'm the big believer I'm still the true believer in direct mail, and I push it every day. I love offline because you have so much data offline, rich data, but there's been a disconnect in leveraging that online, and today you have that. And the last thing, the most important reason why a lot of us are on the line is, how do we drive sales? How do we grow our company? How do we take it to the next level? And you're doing a lot of things. You're doing a lot of campaigns. You got a lot of different channels that you're using, but there seems to be a disconnect with some of the digital efforts and seeing the full picture of the sales they're driving. You're driving a lot of online sales. You're driving a lot of online clicks, but where there's a disconnect on the people that are calling the 1-800 number and the call center is getting the credit for that, or they're going to the retail store and the TV ad is getting credit for it, but did they see your ad? Did they click it and then go to the store? So the matchback analysis is crucial in completing that circle and continuing to leverage your budget where you're driving sales. Put money where on the segments that are driving it. If during one of the campaigns you're testing, one of the segments is just not performing, one of the creatives just doesn't work, you can swap it out, and ultimately on the next campaign or in that same campaign, shift gears and shift your budget to where something that is working.
A lot of people are using the web to shop, and then they show up at a retail store and they buy, or vice versa. They go and they look at the product in the store, they want to touch it, they want to feel it, and they go home and they buy it online because it's cheaper, or it's easier, or it's faster. Either way, with this technology, you can relate people who were targeted in a campaign, online or offline, with people who eventually converted and bought, whether they bought online or offline. And that's key to the kind of ROI analysis Dave is talking about here.
Yes.
That's the key takeaway, I think.
Yep. So we're going to open up the line here and the digital questions, and we'll take a step back and just listen in.
Yes, we've got a bunch of questions that came through, and just as a reminder, if we don't get to your question, we will definitely follow up with you offline. But let's see here. Our first question, what percentage of households can be identified by IP? And are you able to tell us the source of matching IP to addresses?
Typically 50 to 60% of household addresses can be matched to an IP. And no, we can't tell you the source. But that's really the percentage match you can expect, assuming the address is clean and standardized.
Proprietary data there. All right.
So multiple sources. It's not one single.
Exactly. It's not just one source. We're leveraging multiple sources to develop this unique solution.
Okay. Perfect. Another question that came in is, do you have client testimonials available for those on the line who want to kind of hear a little bit more?
It's a new technology. We've used this now for a couple of clients, including most recently a campaign that ran through the fourth quarter and the first quarter of this year. We're hoping to make a proper case study out of that along with testimonials, but the matchback analysis and conversion analysis and ROI analysis is ongoing. Yes. So we're not quite prepared to do that yet, but it's a good question, and it's a fair question, and we intend to respond to that with proper documentation and testimonials at the appropriate time.
All right, another question for you. Do car dealers or other businesses offer for sale the captured ID data of their visitors?
Absolutely not.
No, at all. That's not for sale.
As a matter of fact, they don't even have it.
Yeah, the dealer doesn't even see those. That's all managed by us and our partners, and that's not shared at all.
The dealer doesn't need to know the device ID or IP address of people who come to their lot in order to serve ads to them digitally. The whole point of audientivity and geofencing allows us to harvest that information and serve them ads without that information ever becoming known to the dealer or to Geoscape for that matter. We don't need to know it, but even if we did, we would not be permitted to sell it, nor would the dealer.
Good question.
Okay, then we had a couple more IP-related questions. How is IP captured? Is it an accurate address, or is it just the location of the host provider?
It is not the location of the host provider. It is the location of the Wi-Fi router or where it lives. Generally, you have an IP address that's either static or dynamic, related to a street address. And so it's a map. It's a very precise geodatabase map of IP addresses. And so they're relatable to street addresses through reverse geocoding. This is correct. Best we can explain it to you.
Okay, we've got a couple more questions here. Who are your typical clients? One person in particular asked if you have any clients from the banking industry.
Banking industries, not yet, but telecommunications and auto manufacturers,
We have many clients in the financial services industry for our offline products.
Correct.
We have not yet rolled out Audientivity to a financial services customer that I'm aware of.
That's correct.
Although there are a number that are asking about it.
It's true.
Okay, so the questions are rolling in here. I can't keep up. We'll get to about 2 more questions, and then, like I said, feel free to continue typing in your questions, and we'll follow up with you offline. Let's see here. After defining the target group, is Geoscape the one who actually places the digital ad, or does the customer or do you work with another media company to do that?
We would actually place it within the dashboard. The dashboard gives us access to load the creative, the data, and deploy from there. We would work in combination with the media agency to ensure we have the right creative, the right ad tracking tags, the ad tags, and but we would sort of control the levers and push the buttons to ensure the campaign runs smoothly.
The ads are physically served from an ad network, which is part of the bidding process in real time. So Geoscape is a step or two removed from the actual serving of the ads. We will place the content on the site, and then the bidding technology comes in when it sees an IP address that's been targeted. Will automatically bid for the space to serve that ad. The ad server serves that ad, just like with cookies.
Correct.
Okay, and we have a question I believe you answered a little bit earlier, but maybe it needs reiterating. Is there any interest or availability of developing cultural breaks for African American / Black audiences?
We do have socioeconomic status breaks for African Americans, and we can further segment them in home base by any demographic or behavioral attribute that's there.
Correct. Like we can say, hey, let's reach the same example, affluent African-American millennials.
College graduates.
College graduates. We can do the same targeting. The only thing that we don't have a Hispanicity language factored into African-American, but we can certainly use other fields, as Ron mentioned, socioeconomic status, PRISM, in addition to the cultural elements of African-American identification on the household. And for whoever asked the question, we'd be happy to run an audience count for you if you reach out to us after the call.
Sure.
Excellent. And the last, yes, a lot of great questions coming through. And the last question that I'll actually answer, a lot of folks are asking again if the presentation will be available after this call. And yes, in about 24 to 48 hours, you should see a link hit your email box to be able to download the recording and access the deck itself. So look out for those. We definitely want you to be able to access these materials post-webinar, since we know that even though we have an hour with you, sometimes you forget things or you just want to refer back to what you heard during the webinar itself. So if, like I said, if we didn't get to your question, we'll follow up with you offline, but I do want to say thank you again for everyone who joined us during today's webinar, and thank you, David and Ron, for putting the presentation together for us. Hopefully you guys all found this informative and engaging, and if our presenters left you wanting more, we need to talk to you. So you can either contact your Geoscape or Claritas representative to discuss next steps or moving forward with a project. Or if you don't currently have a representative, that's totally fine. We will actually be reaching out to you to see how we can assist you in your business further. Again, like I said, I'll keep reiterating if we didn't get to your question, we'll follow up with you. But if you want to meet David, who will be at the Portada event in Miami next week, head on over to Portada's website, enter that promo code Geoscape, and you can get 20% off of your registration. I think it's a limited time offer, so you want to jump on that, and it is next week, so it's coming up. But I hope everyone's able to finish out the week strong and go into the weekend feeling good. So bye now.
Thanks,
Bye. Take care. Bye now.